President. Great interview, George. We want to move now to the other major legal case against someone in President Trump's orbit. His former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, found guilty on 8 counts, while a mistrial was declared on the 10 remaining counts. And ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas joins us from Washington. And Pierre, what does this all mean for Manafort?
Paula, good morning. The former chairman of the Trump campaign is now a convicted felon, facing a maximum of 80 years in prison. The jury convicted him of 8 felonies involving tax evasion, bank fraud, and failing to disclose an overseas bank account. So despite failing to convict on those 10 other charges, the jury nonetheless issued a stinging verdict, Paula.
And we're still talking about the Russia investigation. What does Manafort's conviction mean for the Russia investigation going forward, Pierre?
Well, this was an important win for Robert Mueller. Remember, Manafort was at that meeting at Trump Tower when the Russians came in promising to give dirt on Hillary Clinton. And what Manafort may know about Russian collusion is a major reason why federal prosecutors keep putting such incredible pressure on him. The president is well aware of all this pressure. He does not like it. And yesterday he again indicated Manafort has been treated unfairly.
And a presidential pardon has not been ruled out in this case. Let's send things over.
This has nothing to do with what they started out looking for Russians involved in our campaign. There were none. I feel very badly for Paul Manafort.
This is far from over for Manafort. He faces yet another trial set to start on September 17th, and he's sitting down right now in jail on allegations of witness tampering in connection with that upcoming trial, Paula.
A swift fall and a presidential pardon has not been ruled out. Pierre, thank you so much for your reporting this morning. George, let's send things to you.
Okay, Paula, thanks for bringing our political and legal team. Former U.S. Attorney, former Republican Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, our senior White House correspondent. And Chris, let me begin with you right here. What a day yesterday for President Trump. People comparing 1973 when John Dean went and testified against Richard Nixon. The tapes were discovered. How serious a blow?
Well, sure, George, this is not a great day. It's a bad day for the president, and I'm sure way to go here. I listened to Lanny Davis's interview that you just did. It was a good interview, but I have to tell you, for Lanny Davis to be sitting there and saying that a guy who defrauded the federal government of $4 million in tax money, committed bank fraud and all the rest, now need the help of the American people, I think is outrageous.
That may be, but I mean, we've really never seen before a personal attorney to a president implicating him in a federal crime.
No, we have not. And again, to be made. Was this pattern in practice that had gone on in other times through the years before he was a candidate, or was this specific to influence the election? And did it influence the election? So those are all questions that we've got to get answered. That will get answered over time.
Dan, one thing we didn't see yesterday was a specific charge against President Trump in the charging documents. We would expect, if he were not the President of the United States, if he were a candidate for Congress or dog catcher, he would likely be the next one indicted.
Absolutely. The fact that he is president seems to immunize him, at least for now, from prosecution. But remember, Michael Cohen isn't just saying, I made these payments. He's saying, I made these payments with the intent to influence the election, exactly what Chris is talking about. And by saying that, if he's telling the truth, and the reason he was directed to do that was to influence the election, that's a campaign finance violation. That's against the law. If the president directed him to do that, as Michael Cohen says, that too is against the law, and he would be indicted in any other context.
Cecilia, I'm struck by the fact that so far it's now coming up on 7:13 in the morning. We don't have our usual tweet from President Trump this morning. You were at the White House all day yesterday. Quite a different atmosphere from usual.
One of the more frenetic days I've had, I think, covering this administration, George, and I know from talking to people here that aides really struggled yesterday to come up with the right response, to come up with a spin on a story that, frankly, is impossible to spin. I'm also told that the president behind the scenes is very frustrated, that he is maintaining when he is talking to aides behind closed doors that narrative that there is no collusion, that this story is about him, is not about him. And really, the narrative right now, we heard it from Rudy Giuliani, and we will continue to hear this. Michael Cohen is a liar, and the Manafort case is not about Donald Trump.
And Chris Christie, one of the things we're seeing now is it's not only this case in the Southern District. You've got the New York Attorney General looking at the Trump Foundation. You've got Robert Mueller looking at everything having to do with Russia. And now Michael Cohen saying he wants to cooperate. We even saw yesterday Paul Manafort's lawyer saying he's considering all his options.
almost a year, that when a special counsel gets put in place with very broad authority, you have no way of knowing where it's going to end. I told you, I've said to the president a number of times, there's no way you can make this shorter, but there's lots of ways you can make it longer, and the conduct here is making it longer.
Dan Abrams, final question. What is the biggest legal threat to President Trump right now?
Well, look, I think that for him personally, there is no immediate legal threat. The threat to him is political. And the question is going to be, can Robert Mueller, does Robert Mueller put together ultimately, effectively what is a charging document? But he presents it to Congress, not to a grand jury, not to a jury, as typically would be the case. And that's the real danger for him. I think it's important to note, though, that the prosecutors who have been going after Michael Cohen are not Robert Mueller's team. This is not part of the alleged witch hunt. These are prosecutors who report directly to Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General. So that's a different group of prosecutors and a different investigation.
And all of this puts impeachment front and center in the midterms. Chris Christie, Dan Abrams, Cecilia Vega, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. We're going to turn now to that tragic news about the Iowa college student who vanished a month ago. Authorities now say they have found the body of Molly Tibbetts. And this morning, what we know about the suspect taken into custody who was in the country illegally. ABC's Alex Perez has more from Brooklyn, Iowa. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Michael. The suspect worked on a dairy farm for 4 years. Investigators say it was surveillance video from a resident's home that finally helped them crack this case. This morning, the tragic ending Molly Tibbetts' family most feared. Investigators recovering a body early Tuesday, charging this man, Christian Rivera, with first-degree murder.
In one aspect, it's been able to be resolved, but again, not the outcome at all that any of us wanted. Obviously, Molly's family.
Rivera confessed to the crime, according to investigators. Officials believe the 24-year-old abducted Molly while she was out for a run back on July 18th.
He ran alongside of her or behind her, and then she took off running. He in turn chased her down.
Investigators say the suspect led them to the remains found in a cornfield about 10 miles outside of Brooklyn, Iowa, where she was living.
She was found in a cornfield, and there were corn stalks placed over the top of her.
Rivera, who authorities say is in the country illegally, spent the last several years working in Iowa. His employers telling ABC News Rivera worked at Yarraby Farms for 4 years and was vetted through the government's E-Verify system. President Trump talking about the arrest at a rally in West Virginia.
You heard about today with the illegal alien coming in, very sadly from Mexico, and you saw what happened to that incredible, beautiful young woman.
For 34 days, authorities worked around the clock to find the 20-year-old. Authorities searching rural farms and properties and location information from her Fitbit. Investigators say it was surveillance video from a resident's home that finally helped lead them to Rivera. And the suspect is set to make his initial appearance in court later this afternoon. If convicted, he could face up to life in prison. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, Alex. Definitely not the outcome anyone was hoping for. Now we're going to go over to Ginger. And Ginger, Hawaii is bracing for a very strong hurricane.
Michael, now Hurricane Lane is making history this morning. It is the strongest Category 5 that has ever gotten this close to Hawaii. So it is a really stunning image to see it there, swirling west-northwest toward the Hawaiian Islands. And even though it will weaken, we've got hurricane warnings for the Big Island, hurricane watch for most of the other islands, and flash flood watches across all of them. The impacts will be up to 25-foot swells on south-facing beaches of all of the islands. Flash flood watches, meaning up to 20 inches of rain. They just updated this path. It's a little farther west, which is good news for any of the eastern islands. Not great for Kauai. Kauai is one of the places we have seen landfall in the past 2 times. All right, let's get to the rainy cities now, sponsored by Liberty Mutual.
You're turning onto the street when you barely clip a passing car. Minor accident, no big deal, right? Wrong. Your insurance company is going to raise your rate after the other car got a scratch so small you could have fixed it with a pen. Maybe you should take that pen and use it to sign up with a different insurance company.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Bill Emmons. Cloudy skies And we're looking at some low clouds, 72 degrees. We're actually looking at some breaks of sun, too.